Hey, what's up, everybody? Troy Devlin here. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this video, I thought we could talk about a way that we can still lose weight while eating carbs. And what we're going to be talking about is something called carb cycling. And you may have heard of people having a lot of success on the various carbohydrate restriction style diets like Atkins, where people will sometimes eat, big bricks of cheese and, fatty cuts of meat. They're eating bacon and cheese and sticks of butter, and somehow they're losing all this weight, right? People lose, 20, 30 pounds, boom, real fast on these various, some of the diets. They call them like a ketogenic style, where all you really eat is fat and you get your body into a state of ketosis where you've depleted yourself of glycogen and your body begins to run on stored body fat for fuel. Now, without going down a rabbit hole there, I just want you to think about like a stick of butter or a fatty cut of meat, or maybe even like eggs, cheese. Although these foods may be very nutritious, right? There's really no fiber in them, and there's a whole lot of fat, and a lot of that fat is saturated. And so I just want you to imagine a whole lot of sort of like waxy, fatty kind of buildup right in the system, with nothing to sort of move that through the system, which is what I would consider the fiber to be. So in my opinion, carbohydrates are healthy, and they're an integral part of a healthy diet. As a health coach, I would never have you sacrifice your health for an aesthetic. In other words, I would never recommend a program to you that is going to help you look good but is going to kill you at the same time. And so what I would invite you to explore is a technique called carbohydrate cycling. And what it does is it helps us reduce our carbohydrate intake overall. Like, let's say over the course of a week or just over time, but for the purpose of the video, we're going to use the 1 week as an example. And it helps us reduce our carbohydrate intake, but it allows us mindful consumption of carbohydrate, if that's what makes you feel good. Because I know that when I consume carbohydrates, I can feel my sort of like my state of arousal, or like, let's say, my anxiety level, or during the workday, let's say you go to work, or you're around people and you feel like you're keyed up, right? Like you're up here. And then I notice that when I'll consume my carbohydrates is in the evening or the end of the day. And I notice that when I consume those carbohydrates, it helps to sort of bring me down, in a good way. Sort of, I get into sort of my rest and digest, sort of a relaxed, calm, creative state when I consume the carbs. And there have been times in my life when I've cut the carbs out, almost eliminated them. And what I've noticed is that when I do that, I start having trouble sleeping, and I start suffering from these crazy, I guess what you would call them, cravings for carbohydrates. And when I get these cravings, it's not like this isn't something that is going to be satisfied by like an apple, or like, a reasonable sized bowl of oatmeal or something like that, a sweet potato, right? That's not what I go for. I go for a bag of Twizzlers, or something that is not going to support my overall health goals. So without rambling on and on about why there are pitfalls involved with cutting out carbohydrates, I feel like we should proceed with maybe finding a way that we can incorporate mindfulness in how we consume them. So just pay attention to it. One of the easiest ways when you're dieting or trying to lose some weight, one of the easiest ways to do that is just to kind of eat the same thing all the time. And this approach requires that you actually adjust the amount of carbohydrate that you eat each day. So carbohydrate cycling, what it is basically, let's say there's a 7-day week, right? Well, 3 of the days of the week, you will eat very low carbohydrates, right? Try to keep your carbohydrates on those days like, under 50 grams, maybe even under like 30 grams, very, very low as you're able to get them. And it still feels comfortable for you. And that leaves us 4 other days of the week to play with. Now, let's say we take 3 of those other days, and we make them medium carbohydrate days, right? And I would say on these days, maybe try to consume, like, keep your carbs under like 100 grams. That's reasonable, or maybe even like 80 grams. Again, depending on the person, depending on your body weight and what you feel comfortable with. But break it down in your mind as having 3 low carbohydrate days, 3 medium carbohydrate days, and then 1 day you give yourself what's called a high carbohydrate day, or this is what we could call a cheat day. And this is where you would allow yourself, a really large carbohydrate meal, whatever you feel whatever you've been craving and maybe putting off, and allow yourself to feel satisfied. Be kind to yourself. Don't stuff yourself because it's the day that you have to do it, and there'll never come another day. There will come another day next week. But if you and you can play with this strategy, if you will. So you could have a low carb day, and then a medium carb day, and then you could alternate it like that. And I think that's probably a good way to do it. Or you could stack your low carb days in a row, because what some people feel is that it takes a couple days to sort of get their glycogen levels, or their stored blood sugar in their muscles, to get those, and in their liver, to get that to be used up so that the body can then tap into body fat for fuel. But I am of the school of the reason we have stored body fat is for the body to tap into it if the body needs it, right? So if we just reduce our carbohydrates mindfully in a way that works for us overall over the course of a week, using a technique such as carbohydrate cycling, we can greatly benefit from the reduction in carbohydrates overall without suffering from some of the negative health consequences of cutting out carbohydrates entirely. So guys, if you're out there and you're struggling to lose weight, I'm with you. I'm your biggest fan. And what I would ask is that you smash that subscribe button, right? Hit me up in the comments, and I'm going to try to get you back on track. In the next 100 videos, I want to help you lose 100 pounds. And if you stick with me, we're going to help you get there. So again, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.